This is our final project for CS2316, Best Places to Live Based on Educational Attainment.
I'm Anna Neal.
I'm Liam Noonan. The overall goal of our project was to find the best place to live and work post-graduation. We know there are many factors that go into picking a new place to live and a new home out of college, including education levels, unemployment, median income, and job growth. And as graduation approaches, we both plan to leave college with a bachelor's degree. So this is our point of interest when considering a new location to move and live post-college.
So initially to start looking for data, we had the idea of educational attainment, and the US State Census Bureau had a wide breadth of information that kind of had basically anything you want to look for based off regions, states, cities, congressional districts, etc. So we found educational attainment proportions through their population profile, and they also had other useful information that we could use. So we ended up downloading this CSV. However, there were many inconsistencies that we found and a large amount of unneeded data. Like I said before, there's marital status, disability status, language spoken at home, etc., that we didn't really need to come to a conclusion as to where to live. In addition, we needed to create new readable headers. So as you can see on the right side in our code, we had to create new headers and then append them to our new list. We removed regions with an if statement because we did not need congressional districts for this. All the cities had city at the end of it, so it would be San Antonio City. So we needed to get rid of any cities that had that using the dot replace. We also replaced any of the asterisks with NA because that meant that they just did not have this information. And we used F strings to add percent signs to kind of provide a more visual unit, and it became more readable. As you can see here, this is the original CSV file we downloaded, and it was not very pretty. And at the bottom is our a snippet taken of a more readable data. And next, we parsed through this HTML file through MoneyGeek, which is a website geared towards personal finance, which was kind of perfect for our topic because as we graduate, we are going to be dealing with personal finance issues and we are going to be job seekers. And that was the title of this table. And it provided also additional useful information like overall job growth, job competition, housing affordability, and then this website particularly gave each of these cities or regions a total score. So here, when we were cleaning through it, we used the beautiful soup and request module, and using the Google Inspect tool, we could find tables and then we stripped them for their values and created a top header. We wrote a top header, which are rank, area, overall growth, job competition, etc. And then we had the content list below, and then we added percent signs once again to kind of create the units to be a little bit more readable.
Then we found our JSON file from the World Population Review, which is just a website that takes demographic information and breaks it down state by state. In this case, this file was titled Job Growth by State, and it displayed job increase percentages between the years of 2018 and 2019 for each state. It is interesting to note that this percent increase was prior to COVID, so it could have changed within the past 2 to 3 years. But each state's percentage is fairly close to one another too. And then for cleaning the JSON, we just created a new dictionary and basically just changed the original headers to make the final data set more clear to read. And we did so by changing, the population header was originally pop, so we changed that from pop to population, just making it easier to read for the user. And then we wrote the final JSON file to a CSV. Then once we had all of our data files, we move into our analysis goal, which is that we need to take a holistic approach to consider the numerous factors present in selecting a future home.
So for our first insight, we wanted to break down based off educational attainment. And to do so, we took our clean CSV file and made 3 individual smaller data frames from this. And we sorted them by these educational attainment. So kind of to return those top 10 highest educational attainment. And we did that for high school graduate, bachelor's degree, and graduate/professional degree. And then within these 3 data frames, we did the same thing between sorting the values based off of population proportion of 18 to 24-year-olds in these states. So, and then we use the .max function to kind of return the top proportions for each state. So as you can see on the left side, the high school degrees, Indiana with 9.8%, bachelor's degree is Utah, 11.4%, and the graduate/professional is Vermont with 10.4. And this kind of gives us an idea of where people our age kind of flocking to post graduation and where those high numbers going to be. For our second insight, we also narrowed down our data frame to kind of find the lowest unemployment rates based off the state. So kind of vice versa, we returned the bottom 10 because unemployment, we want the lowest value possible. And then we used np.percentile to kind of find the IQR range of these unemployment rates to get kind of like a statistical like overview and like the dispersion of these statistics. And then we plotted these on a box plot. So on the left side, you can see it printed 2.6, which is going to be our minimum value. And then our Q1, the median, Q3, max, and then we have our singular outlier of 2.6, which is kind of, as you can see on the box plot. And our IQR range is going to be 0.1. And it's kind of just the box plot kind of helps contribute to visualize where these values are going to fall in between. And it's mostly between the 3.1 and 3.3. And for our third insight, we wanted to kind of visualize the increase in jobs as we saw in our downloaded JSON file. And so once again, we cut down our data frame. We also created a new column header, which is like the job, like correct job increase, because the one on the table did not really take the math that we used like the actual number of jobs per year for 2018 and 2019. So you can see that we created a new column header called actual change per percentage, which calculated this change in percent. And then we found the approximate mean for these top 10 states to kind of also gauge where like approximately these percent increases are going to fall. And then we also wanted to like graphically display this. So as you can see, the data frame is on the left with our new column. And then on the bottom right, we can see the increase in jobs. And although it doesn't really look like it's like increasing that much, like slope wise, this gradual increase is like good to see when like looking at a new place to live. And it's also important to note that the label on the y-axis is 180 to the 7th, which kind of symbolizes times 10 to the 7th, which you can see the large number of jobs per state.
Next, we want to find the relationship between overall job growth and job competition. And to do so within our code, we used np.correlation coefficient to find the negative correlation as expected between the two. And we also used np.percentile to find the interquartile range for job competition, job growth, and housing. And we found in our results that the city with the highest job growth was Salt Lake City, Utah. As you see here, moving into our visualization, we have the three IQRs for job growth, housing, and job competition. And as you see on the right in the scatter plot, there's a negative correlation, and that point in the bottom right represents Salt Lake City. Moving into our final insights, we wanted to calculate the total money left over not spent on rent. So to do so, we made a new column in the data frame titled spending money per year, which is calculated by taking the median gross rent, multiplying that by 12 to get a yearly rent for each state, and then subtracting that from the mean average salary to get the spending money per year. And here we did so for the top 10 states displayed. And as you see the bar chart to the right of that, we have Washington, D.C., New Jersey, Massachusetts as the top 3 for spending money. And we also did so with regards to the top 10 cities. Moving into our conclusion now, it is important to consider that some of this data was taken before the pandemic. Definitely could have changed within the past 2 to 3 years. With that being said, through our research, we found that the best place to live is Utah. It has the highest proportion of 18 to 24-year-olds with a bachelor's degree, which was our initial point of interest. It has the second largest job growth. And Salt Lake City in particular has low job competition and high growth. And there's also a low unemployment rate of 3.2%.
However, there are a lot of confounding factors and other things that we didn't even address. Initially, we talked about spending money, and Utah didn't even show up in this data. So we were wondering that if there's a lower income in the state, that's why that it gave these results. And in addition, we didn't even tackle job availability and what are these incomes that people are really getting in these states.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in Utah.